Welcome back. I'm Felix, and I am reacting to, was it 1980s cartoon that changed completely mid-season. I'm trying to think if I remember some. I know Thundercats actually changed a little mid-season. Like, they had a recurring character that they kept changing the origin of the character. And I'm trying to think. It's hard to say because 80s is a long time ago for me, unfortunately. But yeah, I do remember cartoons. All of a sudden you're watching it, and all of a sudden they kind of change up. The art style may even change. Later, as an adult, you learn, it's because a new studio took over. They just went in a totally different direction, which made no sense. But let's see what cartoons are on here. See if right now I don't even recognize what this still is from. It's probably a cartoon I wanted to watch but couldn't watch. Like I've said this before in another thing I was watching about cartoons, where there were a lot of cartoons back in the 80s and 90s, but they didn't come on every single channel that you had. Sometimes you got it, sometimes you didn't. But let's get into it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let's see which cartoons shifted gears mid-season.
Do you remember when your favorite cartoon suddenly didn't feel the same? When the theme song still hit, but the story, the humor, even the colors felt different? The 1980s were the decade of Saturday morning makeovers. Studios panicked, toy lines evolved, and shows reinvented themselves overnight. Some grew bigger and bolder. Others, lost their spark entirely. So buckle in, because these 15 cartoons didn't just change direction. They changed identity. Number 15. Thundercats, 1985 to 1989. When Thundercats first hit the screen, it was pure animated myth-making. A dark, operatic fantasy about cat-like heroes exiled from their dying planet, battling evil across strange new worlds. The early seasons were cinematic, moody lighting, sweeping orchestral music, and an almost mythic sense of purpose. Lion-O's journey from reckless boy to noble leader felt like something out of a Saturday morning epic. Then came the shift. Suddenly, Third Earth didn't feel so mysterious anymore. The animation brightened, the storylines became lighter, and the show's serialized depth gave way to self-contained adventures. The second wave of episodes introduced new characters: Bengali, Pamira, Linkso, while old villains faded into the background. Even Mum-Ra lost some of his eerie menace, becoming more predictable than terrifying. The reason? Toy lines. LJN wanted new figures to sell, and the writers had to make sure each toy got screen time. The balance tipped from
big business always screwing things up. It's like, just leave it alone. It would have been fine. But you guys had to screw it up.
Marketing. Gone were the deep emotional arcs. In came flashy new gadgets and faster, simpler storylines. Still, even with the tonal whiplash, Thundercats stayed beloved. Kids didn't care if the lore got softer. They cared that the Sword of Omens still gleamed, and that Lion-O's call still...
As a kid, we didn't notice that stuff. I mean, we kind of noticed, but as long as the story was still good, we watched. But I wonder how much longer it could have went if the companies had left it alone.
Chills. The show's second life might have been more toy shelf than tragedy, but it proved one thing: even legends can adapt when Saturday morning demands it. Number 14. Voltron, Defender of the Universe, 1984 to 1985. Voltron started as the ultimate power fantasy 5 pilots, giant robotic lions, and a planet-saving super machine formed from courage and teamwork. The first season, adapted from Japan's Beast King Go Lion, had real drama. Characters risked everything, enemies were ruthless, and every battle felt epic. The animation carried that intense anime energy Western audiences weren't used to seeing yet. Then, mid-series, Voltron morphed literally. The producers ran out of episodes from Go Lion and stitched together a completely different Japanese show, Armored Fleet Derugger 15, renaming it Vehicle Voltron. Suddenly, instead of 5 lion pilots, there were 15 humans in cars, planes, and sea vessels forming a new version of Voltron. The tone...
I've heard about this. The companies would buy the rights to all these shows and just splice them together. That's how Power Rangers were. Power Rangers were actually, like, each incarnation of Power Rangers was just a Japanese show that they took and just redid for American audience. But yeah, I knew they did this with the cartoons too. But yeah, I just think it's funny when you hear it. It's like they took two cartoons to make one cartoon.
Shifted from dark space opera to something closer to a colorful science lesson with occasional action. Fans were caught off guard. The new Voltron looked different, sounded different, and didn't feel connected to the heroic lion pilots they loved. Letters poured in from confused kids demanding the return of the original Voltron. Eventually, the producers listened and brought the lions back, but the damage was done. Voltron became two separate identities stitched together by network necessity. What started as a grand myth of unity turned into one of the most famous animation identity crises of the decade. But even with its split personality, Voltron's theme still echoes across generations, a robot built on teamwork, even if the team kept changing. Number 13, The Adventures of the Gummy Bears, 1985 to 1990.
I think I do kind of remember a tone shift with them. Like the second season, it was a little different. It wasn't the same. I think they tried to bring in new characters, if I remember correctly.
91. Before Disney dominated weekday afternoons with DuckTales and Chip 'n Dale, there was The Adventures of the Gummy Bears, a show that felt like medieval magic wrapped in bubblegum. The first few seasons were charming, but surprisingly rich, following a secret society of bears protecting their forest home with ancient potions called gummy-berry juice. It had mystery, mythology, and that rare blend of heart and adventure. Then the tone began to bounce in a new direction. Later seasons introduced brighter animation, more comedic stories, and a growing cast of side characters. Gone were the slow, lore-building arcs about lost gummy civilizations. Instead, the show leaned into one-off gags, simpler villains, and punchier humor aimed at younger kids. Even Duke Igthorn, once a menacing medieval tyrant, became more of a comic nuisance. Behind the scenes, the shift made sense. Disney realized Gummy Bears was connecting with a younger demographic, so they lightened the tone to match Saturday morning competition.
I hate when they do that. Like, yes, it's connecting with the younger audience, but the younger audience liked it the way it was. You didn't need to change it.
Episodes became faster and sillier, perfect for shorter attention spans and international syndication. While older fans missed the sense of magic and discovery, the brighter, poppier version kept the show alive for 6 years, longer than most cartoons of its time. And in the...
I knew they were on a long time. Didn't realize. Actually, I don't even remember what the date said at the beginning. But I knew it had been on a long time. But still, I understand you want to bring in a new audience, but sometimes who knows what you could have had if you just stuck to it.
Process, it quietly laid the foundation for what we now know as the Disney afternoon. Not bad for a group of bouncing bears who just wanted to keep their forest safe. Number 12. Jem and the Holograms, 1985 to 1988. When Jem and the Holograms first hit the airwaves, it was a glitter-soaked explosion of music, fashion, and identity. Jem wasn't just a singer. She was Jerrica Benton, a record executive leading a double life powered by holographic technology. The early episodes were all about rivalry, romance, and the power of female friendship wrapped in neon energy and synth-pop anthems. Then came the remix. As the show gained popularity, writers shifted from emotional drama and complex storylines to faster, flashier plots that favored spectacle over substance. The Misfits, once fierce rivals with layered personalities, became cartoonish troublemakers. Conflicts that once felt personal now played out like exaggerated stage acts.
Now that he's talking about it, I do recall that like they started off as it was like a rivalry. Then it just came like they were just playing pranks on them. Like they were just doing it to do it. There was no rivalry. I can't even talk. They were just being bullies.
The reason was marketing, pressure. Hasbro wanted the show to compete directly with Barbie and the Rockers, which meant a heavier focus on style, songs, and merchandise. The series turned from soap opera to music video showcase fun to watch, but missing the heartfelt tension that made it unique. Still, Gem never lost its cultural spark. Even after the tonal shift, it remained one of the few shows where women led every story, every song, and every rescue. Fans still quote the line, "Gem is truly outrageous," not because of the glitz, but because the show dared to be emotional in an era of laser battles and toy tie-ins. Gem proved that sometimes, even when you change the tune, the melody stays iconic. Number 11. Captain Planet and the Planeteers, 1989.
I do remember a shift in that too, because Whoopi Goldberg was the original voice of Guinan, and she left. And I think it was around that time that things shifted, and it just wasn't the same. It felt different too. I think even the art style changed a little.
96. When Captain Planet first aired, it didn't look like your typical Saturday cartoon. It had a mission.
I want to say one thing. He keeps saying Saturday cartoons. All these were not Saturday cartoons. Thundercats was a daily show. Jim and Holograms was a daily show. And so was Captain Planet. These all did not come on Saturdays. I think a lot of people don't realize that we had cartoons every day. We come home from school and watch cartoons. And most of these cartoons that these YouTubers and the AI YouTubers call Saturday morning cartoons were daily cartoons, not weekly. Not weekly, they were daily. And Gummy Bears was a Saturday morning cartoon that became a weekly cartoon. So sometimes they'll transition to do more. But yeah, this was a daily cartoon, not a weekly. So far, all of these have been weekly cartoon or daily cartoons. They came on every day.
Literally. 5 kids from around the world combined their elemental powers to summon Captain Planet, a hero made of pure environmental energy. The early seasons were intense, tackling pollution, greed, and global responsibility with a level of seriousness few shows dared to attempt. But as the seasons rolled on, the show's tone began to shift. What started as eco-education with a sharp edge softened into colorful lessons wrapped in lighter storytelling. The villains, once symbolic of real-world destruction, became exaggerated caricatures. The dialogue turned cheesier, and Captain Planet's one-liners started to sound more like slogans than warnings. Why the change? Viewer fatigue. Early episodes were too heavy for the youngest audience. To keep ratings steady, producers added more humor, less danger, and simpler solutions. The Planeteers went from facing massive disasters to solving personal moral lessons. Yet, even with its campier later years, Captain Planet left an undeniable legacy. It introduced environmentalism to an entire generation, inspiring kids to care about the world long before going green became trendy. Sure, the tone shifted from bold activism to gentle optimism, but its message never vanished. Captain Planet might have gone from storm to sunshine, but the heart of the show, hope, stayed unshakable. Number 10, Garfield and Friends.
This one's a little crazier because there was more than one Garfield cartoon. So, cause I think right after Garfield and Friends, there was another Garfield. I'm not sure how many Garfield cartoons there were, but there were definitely a lot.
8 to 1994. When Garfield and Friends began, it was everything fans of the comic strip could hope for: deadpan humor, sardonic charm, and a lasagna-loving cat whose only ambition was avoiding effort. The early episodes stuck close to the original tone of Jim Davis's comics, short vignettes of Garfield, John, and Odie navigating lazy domestic chaos with sharp wit. Then came the shift, Friends. The show expanded to include U.S. Acres, a farmyard comedy featuring new animal characters. The tone widened, jumping between Garfield's dry sarcasm and the upbeat, slapstick energy of the barn animals. For some viewers, it was fun variety. For others, it was tonal whiplash. Over time, the series leaned even harder into self-aware humor. Garfield broke the fourth wall constantly, mocking his own show, the network, and even the audience. What started as a laid-back comic adaptation turned into a meta-commentary on cartoons themselves. The reason? Experimentation. CBS and the writers realized Garfield's humor worked best when it poked fun at television tropes, so they let the cat talk back, literally. The later seasons became smarter, wilder, and more unpredictable. While some purists...
That... I lost my voice there. Oh my God. The fact that they saw it and went for it and it worked, that's saying a lot. Because a lot of companies, a lot of networks, they won't take that chance. But no, it's working this way. We can't change anything. But they saw an opportunity, they went for it, it worked. I didn't know Garfield actually crossed over to the Barnyard Animals. I remember that. And I can't remember what else I was going to say. I got shocked that my voice wouldn't work there for a second. But yeah, I do remember him breaking the fourth wall and talking to us, which became a common thing, actually, in the other cartoons, that he would always break the fourth wall and talk to the audience.
Cozy comic strip simplicity, Garfield and Friends became one of the cleverest shows of its time, a parody of pop culture disguised as a children's cartoon. It taught audiences that even laziness could be an art form. And for a cat who hates Mondays, that's a legacy worth purring about. Number 9. Dennis the Menace, 1986 to 1988. At first, Dennis the Menace was exactly what it promised innocent suburban chaos. Dennis, voiced with just the right mix of charm and mischief, spent every episode testing Mr. Wilson's patience while somehow keeping his heart in the right place. The early episodes balanced wholesome humor with clever timing, capturing that old-school comic strip spirit. It wasn't...
I used to watch Dennis the Menace, and I would watch it, and I would wonder why Mr. Wilson didn't make him disappear. That kid would get on my last nerve.
Deep, but it had rhythm, a cartoon snapshot of classic Americana. Then the tone started to wobble. As new creative teams cycled in, Dennis's personality shifted from lovable troublemaker to near-cartoon hurricane. The pranks got wilder, the pacing faster, and the writing leaned more into broad slapstick. Mr. Wilson stopped being the grumpy neighbor you secretly rooted for and became more of a full-blown punching bag. The subtle humor of misunderstanding turned into big, loud, messy gags. Why the shift? Ratings. Networks wanted higher energy to compete with louder, flashier cartoons. The writers cranked up the chaos to keep kids glued.
This is what I was saying in Garfield. They took a chance and it worked. But how bad were the ratings they felt the need to change it for Dennis the Menace? Because if I remember correctly, it was pretty popular back when I was young. But back then I also didn't know about ratings, so maybe the ratings weren't that good, and they were trying to figure out how to boost it, and that's what they went for. Now, Dennis the Menace wasn't a cartoon that I went out my way to watch. If it was one, I watched it. Otherwise, I was good. It was one of those type of shows.
Even if it meant sanding off the original's quiet charm. By the second season, Dennis the Menace felt more like a Looney Tunes remix than a suburban comedy. Still, for all its tonal swings, the show remains a snapshot of the era when every cartoon had to shout to be heard. Some fans prefer the early balance of wit and warmth. Others remember the later, goofier Dennis fondly. Either way, it proved one thing. Even the most innocent troublemaker isn't safe from a network trying to make menace mean mayhem. Number 8. Rainbow Bright, 19...
Now, I did watch Rainbow Bright from time to time, but it was one of those things, if it was on, I watched it. If it wasn't on, I didn't miss it. But yeah, so I can't really say if I recall the shift in Rainbow Bright.
1984 to 1986. The first episodes of Rainbow Bright were pure magic, a cosmic fairy tale where color itself was the weapon against gloom. Rainbow Bright and her loyal horse, Starlight, fought the sinister, murky Dismal to bring joy back to a gray world. The animation had a dreamy, pastel glow, and the tone balanced whimsy with quiet courage. It wasn't just a show, it was a feeling. Then the rainbow faded just a little. As the series expanded, the focus shifted from mythic storytelling to softer, simpler adventures. The later episodes felt less like epic battles between light and dark, and more like playground-level lessons about sharing, teamwork, and kindness. Murky Dismal...
I was just looking at her face. That is one messed up looking face. I don't recall her face looking like that. That looks weird.
Shadowy villain to bumbling comic relief, and the overall pace slowed. Behind the scenes, the reason was marketing evolution. Hallmark and Diak wanted to push Rainbow Bright toys and tapes to even younger audiences. The show's fantasy roots were trimmed down for easier, everyday moral tales. Gone were the deeper storylines about color energy and cosmic restoration, replaced by gentler, episodic fun. Still, Rainbow Bright never lost its soul. Even in its lighter form, it kept a core message about optimism in dark times. It may have shifted from mythic heroism to cheerful simplicity, but its imagery and theme song still light up childhood memories decades later. Sometimes, even if you tone down the storm, the rainbow still shines. Number 7. Care Bears Family.
Now, I remember the Care Bears. And again, this is one, if it was on, I watched it. If it wasn't, I didn't worry about it. But I do remember it was the Care Bears, and then it was the Care Bears Family, if I remember correctly. It wasn't always Care Bears Family. I think Family is when they introduced the other Care Bears, like the other animals, to the Care Bear. And obviously, I think they were introduced for marketing purposes. But I do remember that. I remember the robot chicken parody of the Care Bear cousins, how they didn't like them. That was a messed up parody.
1986 to 1988.
Unless I'm thinking of the movies. There was sorry, not the robot chicken thing, but there was a Care Bears movie. Maybe the show was Care Bears Family, and I just didn't remember that part.
The original Care Bears was as soft and sweet as a cartoon could get. The first specials, like The Land Without Feelings, carried surprisingly heavy themes: loneliness, fear, emotional healing dressed up in pastel fur and heart-shaped symbols. Every bear had a purpose, and every episode ended with real emotional weight, teaching kids empathy without ever saying the word. Then the clouds cleared a little too much. When the Care Bears Family premiered, it reimagined the series with brighter colors, snappier music, and a lighter tone. The new Care-a-Lot was a bustling town instead of a mystical cloud world, and the stories focused more on teamwork and friendship than emotional growth. Villains like Beastly and Shrieky replaced the haunting villains of the early films with sillier antics and harm.
Okay, there goes my voice again. So I was right. It was Care Bears, and it became Care Bears Family. So they changed the name.
It wasn't just a creative choice, it was strategic. The original tone, while heartfelt, skewed older. To reach preschool viewers, Nelvana softened the edges, swapped the deeper allegories for easier adventures, and added catchier songs. The result was a show easier to syndicate worldwide, but less emotionally layered. Even so, it worked. The Care Bears family became the definitive version for millions of kids, proof that kindness and color never go out of style. Sure, the tears were replaced with giggles, but the magic stayed, proving that even when you dial down the drama, heart still wins. Number 6. Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, I used to love this show. Now, this one was a Saturday morning cartoon. It was not a daily show, but I wish this one could have got a conclusion. It didn't get a conclusion, but it was a good show, and I would love to see them bring this one back. They don't need to try to change it, maybe just update the animation, but I wouldn't mind seeing this one come back.
1983 to 1985. When Dungeons and Dragons debuted, it was unlike anything else on Saturday morning. 6 kids whisked from an amusement park into a fantasy world where dragons soared, monsters lurked, and every episode felt like a quest that could change everything. The early episodes were daring, moody, adventurous, and threaded with real danger. The tone balanced humor with suspense, anchored by the mysterious dungeon master guiding the kids home. Then something changed, mid-run. The writing became lighter, the monsters less threatening, and the deeper storylines gave way to simpler, episodic adventures. The danger that once felt real turned into cartoon excitement. Even the tone of the dialogue shifted, less mystical prophecy, more Saturday morning quips. The show's world started to feel less like a high-stakes journey and more like a fantasy playground. Behind the curtain, producers were reacting to parental pressure. Concerned groups criticized the darker tone and perilous themes, so the writers softened it all. The violence was toned down and the stakes reduced. An entire final episode that would have brought the kids home in a bittersweet finale was written but never aired. Still, the show remained unforgettable. For a generation, Dungeons and Dragons was the gateway to fantasy. Even with its mid-series changes, it managed to be haunting, hopeful, and heroic all at once. It's proof that sometimes, even when a story pulls its punches, the adventure still burns bright. Number 5.
Yeah, if done right, you can still have a soft, you still have violence without having violence. You just got to know how to write it. It's the thing. You got to have really good writers. I hate the fact that they actually had a final episode and we never got to see it. They need to air it. Let us see it.
The New Adventures of Mighty Mouse, 1987 to 1988. When Mighty Mouse returned in the late 80s, nobody expected it to feel like a Saturday morning art experiment. The early episodes of The New Adventures of Mighty Mouse were smart, strange, and wildly creative. Under producer Ralph Bakshi, the show was a surreal mix of old-school heroics and modern absurdity. It wasn't just for kids, it was animation that winked at the adults watching, too. Then came the change. Network executives, nervous about the show's edgy humor and abstract satire, reined it in hard. The later episodes became safer, sillier, and more predictable. The biting commentary on superhero...
I wonder if that happened after the episode where he snorts a line of white stuff. Mighty Mouse snorts something and yeah, that was really an episode.
And society's obsession with fame was replaced with generic gags and light-hearted escapades. It was a classic clash between art and oversight. Bakshi's original version was pushing boundaries in both style and tone, blending pop culture critique with slapstick chaos. But the controversy made CBS uneasy, and soon the show lost its experimental edge. The animation stayed slick, but the stories felt flatter. Even so, The New Adventures of Mighty Mouse left its mark. It paved the way for smarter, riskier cartoons like Animaniacs and Ren and Stimpy. It proved that even in the bubblegum-colored world of 80s television, creativity could thrive at least until the network got nervous. The mouse might have lost some of his roar, but his legacy of fearless fun never faded. Number 4. DuckTales, 1987 to 1990.
Wrong DuckTales. This is not, it wasn't say 1978. This is the DuckTales that just came out in the 2000s. He's got the wrong video. Wrong DuckTales.
When DuckTales first aired, it was lightning in a bottle adventure, humor and heart all rolled into one. Scrooge McDuck and his mischievous nephews traveled the world chasing lost treasures, uncovering mysteries, and crossing paths with villains straight out of pulp fiction. The early tone was swashbuckling and bold, blending humor with genuine adventure. Then, around the later seasons, things began to change. The show started weaving in more science, fiction elements, turning away from its globe-trotting roots. New gadgets, robots, and outer space plots replaced the Indiana Jones-style adventures that made the first episodes shine.
This is the wrong DuckTales. Sorry. I know what he's talking about, but they're using the wrong DuckTales. I wonder if the AI put this whole story together. Because there's some things in there. Like I said, they kept saying everything's Saturday morning. A lot of these were daily shows. And this one's even the wrong DuckTales. So.
Gizmo Duck, a superhero in a metal suit, became a breakout star, shifting the tone from treasure hunting to comic book heroics. The shift wasn't random. Disney was testing the waters for an entire animated universe, laying the groundwork for future spin-offs like Darkwing Duck and Tailspin. As the world of Duckburg expanded, the once simple adventure series turned into something much bigger, an evolving experiment in storytelling and branding. Some fans missed the original format's balance of humor and mystery, but others loved the expanded scope. DuckTales may have traded buried gold for high-tech gadgets, but it proved something groundbreaking that animated storytelling could evolve and still keep audiences hooked. Whether it was in a pyramid, a lab, or outer space, adventure was always just around the corner. Number 3. Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers.
Sorry, that's just funny to me. They had the wrong DuckTales. And the years were wrong. But, yeah, I do know what they're talking about. There was Gizmo Duck. They had magic. They brought in more magic. What else? They did time travel. So there was a lot of stuff going on. But, yeah, wrong DuckTales. Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers. I never watched this. I've heard about it, but I never watched it. I never got a chance to watch it.
1986. When the Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers debuted, it was unlike anything else on American TV. Imagine a space western that treated kids like adults with guns replaced by lasers, deep character arcs, and serialized storytelling. The early episodes were intense, cinematic, and visually stunning for their time. Heroes like Zachary Fox and Nico faced moral dilemmas and intergalactic threats that felt straight out of a live-action sci-fi show. Then the series hit a mid-run identity crisis. The tone softened, the stories became less serialized, and the darker plots about cybernetic revenge and alien slavery gave way to lighter, stand-alone adventures. The humor increased, and the tension dropped. What had been a gritty space odyssey slowly morphed into a more conventional Saturday morning cartoon. The reason? Network concerns. Syndication executives wanted something easier to re-air out of order. The show's original serialized format made that hard to do, so the writers simplified it. It meant less emotional continuity and fewer long-form arcs.
I don't get this whole airing stuff out of order stuff. That was a huge thing. I don't think it's as big a thing now. But yeah, what was this whole obsession with airing things out of order? It's like they went out of their way to do it on purpose, and it never made sense.
Galaxy Rangers stayed ahead of its time. It proved that even when watered down, an ambitious cartoon could have cinematic storytelling, mature themes, and a loyal fan base. It may have changed gears halfway through, but its early daring spirit influenced everything from Exo Squad to Batman, the animated series. It wasn't just a cartoon, it was a blueprint for the future of sci-fi animation. Number 2. Aleph.
He can't even say it, Alf. Aleph. I can't even say it the way he said it. Alf. Oh my God. Excuse me. I can't even say there were two of them because the anime series and Alf Tales. I remember when they both were coming on, I thought I was losing my mind. I was like, wait, why is there two? What? Then I realized, oh, this is two different cartoons.
Animated series and Alf Tales, 1987 to 1990. The original Aleph cartoon started as a charming prequel to the live-action sitcom, following Gordon Shumway, better known as Aleph, back...
Oh my God, the AI is killing me. It's Alf. Jeez. Ugh.
Planet of Melmac, before he ever crashed into suburbia. The tone was lighthearted but surprisingly clever, blending alien culture satire with slapstick humor. It had just enough world building to make Melmac feel like a real quirky place. Then, midway through, things took a left turn straight into Alf Tales. Suddenly, the same characters were acting out fairy tale parodies, from Cinderella to Jack, and the sci-fi setup was gone, replaced with theatrical storytelling and broad comedy. The tone flipped from witty parody of suburban life to sketch-style fantasy. The reason was simple: ratings fatigue. The first Aleph cartoon wasn't holding young viewers, so NBC tried retooling it into a series of pop culture fairy tales to attract a wider audience.
That didn't work. But I do remember when it shifted gears and it's just like, they were airing both of them actually. At least where I live, I remember both of them airing. And they were airing them like two separate cartoons. So, yeah, it was weird. It was a weird thing. And cause I remember watching this and then I was like, what is this? Well, this isn't the same Alf. But you still see both of them. Basically, the original was just reruns, but they were airing Alf Tales as well. So, and they're not the only ones to do that. Like Sonic had two cartoons going at the same time, and Jaleel White, I believe, voiced both of them. So that was weird.
The new format was colorful, imaginative, and fast-paced, but it lost the grounded humor that made Aleph so lovable. Still, both versions have their defenders. The early ALF episodes built a surprisingly detailed alien world, while ALF Tales gave the writers creative freedom to do anything. Together, they form a fascinating case study in how one idea can be reimagined mid-run into something completely new, whether fans asked for it or not. Alf went from alien sitcom star to fairy tale storyteller, proving that even on another planet, network execs can't resist a format change. Number 1. The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest. Prototype Concept Revival, 1986 to 1987.
I do remember two Johnny Quests. Technically, there were three. There was the original, and then there were two versions of Johnny Quest. One where he's like an older teenager, probably 16, 17 years old. Then one where he's like a preteen. He's a little older than the original. And it was weird. Because I remember one time they were airing back to back. Like you see this one, then you see that one. You see this one, see that. And I do remember when I watched them, it was on Cartoon Network. So they were showing both of them. And it was just weird that both of them were airing, pretty much back to back. But yeah, there were two versions airing at the same time. I don't know if they were originally made at the same time, but when I saw them, they were airing at the same time.
Before the 90s reboot everyone remembers, there was an earlier attempt to revive Johnny Quest in the mid-80s. The first wave of episodes tried to recapture the adventure and espionage feel of the original 60s series. Johnny, Haji, and Race Bannon explored strange ruins, fought criminal masterminds, and flirted with genuine peril. The tone was serious, cinematic, and occasionally eerie like a spy thriller disguised as a cartoon. But partway through production, the creative direction shifted. The network wanted something less tense and more kid-friendly. The result was a softer version with brighter visuals, simpler plots, and more one-liners. The sense of danger faded, replaced by moral lessons and humor-driven side stories. The adventure shrank from globe-trotting intrigue to episodic escapades. The behind-the-scenes reason was familiar fear of controversy. Critics had called the early episodes too intense for Saturday mornings, so the producers backed off. What was supposed to be a revival worthy of the Johnny Quest name turned into something safer, smaller, and more forgettable. Still, this failed mid-'80s revival paved the way for the successful Real Adventures of Johnny Quest a decade later. It taught networks that kids were ready for smarter storytelling, they just needed the right balance.
Also, I do remember there being Johnny Quest movies, too. I think there was like 1 or 2 movies they did that aired on TV. I think in this version of Johnny Quest, the dad disappeared and they were looking for him. And then the other one I was talking about, he was there. It was basically like the old Johnny Quest, the original. And like I said, cartoons didn't air on every single channel across the United States. Some got it, some didn't. And I don't think I got this originally when it was made.
Even in failure, the show proved the legend of Johnny Quest could never truly fade, only evolve. So there you have it, 15 '80s cartoons that didn't just change, they transformed.
That was fun. Again, not all of them were Saturday morning cartoons. I think 1 or 2 really were Saturday morning cartoons. The rest were everyday cartoons. And like I said, that now that I know that the Johnny Quests weren't made around the same time, that explains why I was seeing them back to back. And like this Johnny Quest and then the Real Adventures of Johnny Quest. But either way, it's still a thing that goes on. Shows, even live action shows, will shift gears mid-season or come back the following season to completely new shows. Like, what is this crap? This is not what I signed up for. But that was fun to watch. A nice little romp through time. Sorry for my voice. I've been sick all week, and it's just been going in and out. But I also wanted to add, I do see the comments people are making, and I'm bad at replying to comments. I do try to do at least a thumbs up on the comments, but I think I'm going to try to kind of interact more with the comments. A lot of times, to me, they don't necessarily need a response. It's just people stating something, and so there's not really a need for a response. I'm that type of person. I'm not going to respond just to respond. To me, that seems silly. But I just want to let you guys know I do see the comments and I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys are engaging and interacting with it. And and again, like I said, I've been sick all week. My brain just shut down. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for interacting and leaving comments. So thank you overall. Oh God, I'm going to bed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and everyone take care. Later.